Two scuffling sides desperate for some good news tonight in South Florida. Monday Night Soccer, Fort Lauderdale United FC. They have not picked up 3 points since early November. DC Power FC fighting for a postseason spot. Gainbridge Super League presented by Tropical Financial Credit Union. We are beyond Bancard Field with Jade Barquette. I'm Ken Levicka. Let's look at the Gainbridge Super League standings. Could be a big night for Sporting Club Jacksonville via Fort Lauderdale United.
If Fort Lauderdale wins or ties, Sporting Club Jacks will secure the Players' Shield for this 2026 season. DC Power sitting right below that playoff spot. They need these 3 points, not only to make Sporting Club Jacks maybe wait another week, but to put themselves in a better position to get into that fourth place spot.
Dallas Trinity a victory Saturday, 6 points below the playoff line now is DC Power. Last time out, Fort Lauderdale United, things got dramatic late. They conceded an early penalty, but some teeth in the attack late.
Yeah, they did draw a point at Carolina. It was their first point since February 2024. They went on the road against a quality opponent in the Ascent and secured the draw with that Cat Gonzalez goal. It showed that Fort Lauderdale, even though they're struggling, they're finding the right things to do, and in clear moments that they need to score points, they do.
Dealing a big blow to Carolina Ascent's title chances in the regular season. Haley Craig, Fort Lauderdale United. She has played real well in goal.
They've had a lot of different goalkeeper changes this season. Haley Craig has come in and made a mark for herself. 4 saves against Carolina, 7 saves against Lexington. She's bailed them out of a ton of other situations as well, and she'll start in goal tonight.
Haley Craig, Deserve It Baptist Health player to watch. Tale of two teams. It's been a role reversal from the 2024-2025 season. Fort Lauderdale United battling for the playoff spot last year. This season, it is DC Power.
And the main thing you want to look at is that goals scored. Last year, 15. This year, 26. So 10 more goals. However, they're just below that line. They have to continue to put away their chances. It's going to be the tail, really, of this season for DC.
DC Power has to score 199 straight minutes without a tally. You look, 1 victory, 3 defeats in the last 4. This has been a struggle for them. Injuries haven't helped.
No, they really haven't. There's a key players for DC Power that have been out. Susanna Fitch, Gianna Gorley, Alexis Theoret, to name a few. But they're still confident in the way they are playing, creating chances. I mean, the question is, would you rather have the issue of not creating chances at all, or on the other end where you're having those moments you can't put them away?
If there is one player for DC Power that's finally going to unlock the attack, it is this woman, Alyssa Walker, the midseason acquisition. She's been brilliant.
Yeah, she's come in and really made a name for herself amongst DC Power. She's a go-getter, energy setter within this team. She's a ball hunter and really wants to put the ball away when it's at her foot.
Fort Lauderdale United looking for 3 points. DC Power looking to stay in the Gainbridge Super League playoff race. Kickoff from South Florida is minutes away. It's the Gainbridge Super League on Peacock.
With over 2 decades of experience in the payment industry, Beyond Bancard is more than just a payment processor. We are a partner dedicated to your success. Our mission is simple: to provide innovative, flexible payment processing solutions tailored to meet your needs.
We partner up with various companies, restaurants, retail, smoke shops, convenience store, you name it, we have the POS system for it.
Whether it's tools we provide or the relationships we nurture, Beyond Bancard is here to power your payment solutions.
Staying cool in Florida has never been easier. With all your cooling, you'll get no money down, no payments until 2027, and a 10-year parts and labor warranty. Don't wait until your AC gives out. Call us today, 855-818-3828, or scan the QR code below.
Caitlin Clark, amazing at assists. Gainbridge, the ultimate assist for your savings. But ever since they teamed up, she's taken assisting to a whole new level. Caitlin Clark, graded assists. Gainbridge, graded assists for your savings.
Standalone Monday night soccer in the Gainbridge Super League. Fort Lauderdale United, DC Power. It's the Amerant Bank player walkout as both sides head to the pitch here in South Florida. Let's head to our starting 11, and the starting lineups presented by LaCroix Sparkling Water, Fort Lauderdale United. Jade.
2 changes for Paul Jennison. Jules Grosso will step into that outside back role. And then Shay Moyer makes her debut for Fort Lauderdale United. She was recently acquired from Lexington. Jasmine Hamid has gone to Dallas. And then Emily Thompson up there, number 10, making her second consecutive start. A recent signing for them as well.
Paul Jennison going with a 4-3-3. And then there's DC Power, Omin Damazi, with his starting 11, a 4-2-3-1 tonight.
McKenna Gottschalk will be in goal tonight for DC Power, and Deja Torbert will make the start as well. She has 3 goals and assists on the season. And then you look at Emily Colton and Loza Abera as well. Loza Abera, 4 goals and an assist. Emily Colton leads this team in assists tonight. They're going to create a lot of chances for DC Power tonight.
DC Power really needs to find a way to score goals. The Beyond Band Card coin toss setting the stage for every great moment beyond Band Card. Beyond Band Card Field, Fort Lauderdale. It is really comfortable, mid-70s, the temperature coming up here at kickoff. This is about the time of the year in South Florida where things get, well, muggy all the time and miserable all the time. A little bit of rain in the area the last couple of days as you get a glance at Haley Craig, the former Stanford woman who's in goal tonight for Fort Lauderdale United. Our referee, Alejo Kalume. As he checks his watch, there's the whistle. We're underway on a Monday night in the Gainbridge Super League with Jade Barquette. I'm Ken Levicka. Beyond Band Card Field in Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale United comes into this one 4 victories, 9 defeats, 8 draws, 20 points in the table. That is 9th place. Meanwhile, DC Power is 6 points outside of the playoff picture, on the wrong side of the playoff line. 6 victories, 8 losses, and 8 draws, and dealt a blow with Dallas Trinity winning on Saturday, picking up all 3 points. And so this makes, with just over a handful of matches left to go for DC Power, urgent mode now. 2 of the next 3 for DC Power is against this Fort Lauderdale United side, and we have our first foul of the match. Our keys to the game presented by Amerant Bank, your hometown bank, supporting every winning strategy. Jade Barquette, what do we have to see from both sides tonight?
For Fort Lauderdale, they have to score that first goal. They haven't led in a match since Brooklyn. They're tied to Brooklyn 3-3 on Valentine's Day. That was back in February, so they have to get on the front foot early. And then for DC, finish your chances. I mentioned in the open that they had more total shots in both of their games in Lexington and Tampa, 19 at Lexington and then Tampa 16 as well. Shots on target, they led in both of those categories as well. So it's just about finishing in front of net. That's a mentality that these forwards have to have. And for DC, it's going to be the difference between winning and losing this game.
Some early pressure from Fort Lauderdale United in the attacking third, but it's worked into the defensive midfield. Over the last 4 matches, at least 40% of the possession has been in Fort Lauderdale's defensive third, at Fort Lauderdale United's defensive third, and it is difficult to create chances when that's the case. And we asked this week interim head coach Paul Jennison, would you like to see more shots from the attack? They are last in the Gainbridge Super League, and he said, hey, we want good opportunities. The buildup is there. Just need to find the right moments, and that continues here tonight. But Fort Lauderdale United really wants to see more shots on target, and perhaps something developing here, right of the box. Grosso into the middle, one-touch goal. How about that for a start? That is spectacular. Emily Thompson with a right foot. It was point blank. What a pass. What a finish. 1-0 Fort Lauderdale. They have not seen the advantage since Valentine's Day. The flag was up. It's an offside. The referee on the far side thought about it, put the flag up, and so the delirium is squashed here early. But on the bright side, just if you want to be an optimist, as it's won back by Fort Lauderdale United, here's maybe another opportunity. And it's still loose outside the 6-yard area. Finally, a desperate clearance from DC Power, but on the bright side, Fort Lauderdale United very much on the front foot. And yes, indeed, you can see Emily Thompson was about a step offside. She was about a step ahead of Claire Constant.
Well, what an opportunity for her, right? That would be her first goal for Fort Lauderdale United, her first professional goal. A player who just signed with this team in March, wanting to make a statement. She was making that threatening run through the back line, just a little bit off sides, and a finish that was out of the air. It was perfect. A great start for Fort Lauderdale, and they maintained possession here. And it just goes back to what I was saying with the keys of the game of they needed to score early. They needed to get on the front foot immediately, draw that first blood, and they were doing that in that moment. What a ball over by Shania Gordon, too. Something they're going to have to keep up with, and with the possession they have right now, just being patient. You talked about Paul Jennison just, wanting to create more chances. They're such a process-oriented team. They're going to want to take their time to get that best look on goal.
Well, team, you mentioned that word, and Paul Jennison asked consistently about individual players and who's made an ascension, because let's be honest, it's been a rough go of it for Fort Lauderdale United this season. This is won back by DC Power in a sliding defensive play that was well read by Leveni Vaca, and that gets the ball out of danger for a moment. Fed back towards the box on the turn, and a whistle, and the flag is up and an offside. As we take a look here at Leveni Vaca.
Well, it'd actually be Jules Grosso that comes over. Alyssa Walker, again, that player to watch for us earlier in the broadcast, just wanting to keep the ball as much as she can. Jules Grosso doing her job as a defender, keeping that one away from net.
Grosso, who was signed Fort Lauderdale mid-season a year ago. This will be played into the back and received by Maggie Mace. But back to what we were discussing with Paul Jennison, that team word came up consistently. Hey, we're looking for this to be a team effort. We're progressing forward as a team, and so far here tonight, he's had to like what he's seen, but wants to stay away from individual accolades, Paul Jennison.
Yeah, and I think within this Fort Lauderdale environment, this atmosphere, they believe in one another, and that's something that he mentioned to us so many times during our call earlier this week, was just the fact that they want to instill belief in every single one of their players. And when you go through adversity like this team has gone through this season, it either make or breaks you as a group, as that team environment, and it really has, from what we picked up with him, brought them closer together, and that they don't harp on the things that go wrong, but they try to get better each and every day.
Fort Lauderdale United trying to play out of the back, and it is mishit. This will be an attacking half throw-in. But you look at DC Power, and man, they came out flying after the midseason break. They start the spring at 2 victories, 2 draws, and they've been 1-3 since. This after they dug out of a first half of the season hole. They were 1-2-4, 1 victory, 2 defeats, 4 draws, scuffled out of the gate. Did all this work to pull themselves back into the playoff picture, and then frustratingly, their goal scoring has completely dissipated over the last 2.5 weeks. But trying to find some goal scoring here. Left-footed shot, that's blocked. And it's still loose in the left box, and a sliding attempt will sail out of play up and over the goal. But now we see the first sustained attack in action here for DC Power. Loza Abera, the Ethiopian legend, right in the middle of all of that.
She's going to pick up a lot of those balls in the central part of the field, either hold at play or turn and shoot just like she did. Great shot by Mace. And then Paige Almondera is just sneaking up from that defensive position, gets the ball in the 18, but she doesn't get the look on it she wanted.
DC Power is going to head back home after this match and then come all the way back to Florida to play Tampa Bay next weekend. And some indecision there from Fort Lauderdale United, and it's not out of trouble yet. Now it appears it's going to be. Fort Lauderdale United has had the advantage in possession here early. They've had the best scoring opportunity. A goal or Emily Thompson waved off doing an offside in the first 2 minutes. Tonight's injury report is presented by Baptist Health. My goodness, DC Power, look at all of the names.
Yeah, that's something that we touched on, and he touched on, Oben Namazi, when we talked to him earlier this week as well, that they dealt with a little bit of the injury bug, and it's not the time of the season to have all these injuries, but his team has had to step up. They've had to just dig themselves out of those holes, and when they've dealt with adversity. Fort Lauderdale, a key that they have out, Ella Simpson, who has been such a player for them when she stepped into this team. She's a center back, but she can score. She's tied for second on the team in goals with 4, so she's a defender that can do a lot of work, and unfortunately she'll be out tonight.
This is whipped all the way out to the left wing. Hugh, a high delivery, and it's going to sail up and over the crossbar. McKenna Gottschalk had to account for it for a moment, was drifting, and then the satisfaction of seeing the crossbar up above her as that ball hits the top netting.
That's one of those balls where definitely a cross shot situation for Abby Hugh. But you never know when it comes off of your foot. It might dip down for a goal, so Gottschalk had to just make sure that one was away.
Fort Lauderdale United is desperately looking for some quality in the attacking third, but Omid Namazi, he made the comment this week, the boss for DC Power, hey, we have had the build-up all season long, but all season long, the finishing, the quality has not been there. Pretty blunt words from the head man.
And you like the honesty. I always appreciate it when we have those calls with coaches, because we're asking pointed questions, wanting to get answers. And when someone's open with us about, yes, we're struggling with that, but we're continuing to work at it in training every day.
The race is on, coming up the near touchline. Here's Locklear. Kara Locklear around the defender. Locklear is tackled at the last moment. Heavy contact in the area. Constant came up to challenge Locklear. Boy, Locklear took a hit. They went shoulder to shoulder. This was an Abby Hugh curler that stayed in play. Locklear got right around Cummings, and some desperate defending by Constant. Made contact with the ball first before contact with the body, and this is going to be a corner for Fort Lauderdale United.
I love the tackle from Constant. As a center back myself, that's exactly what they needed in that moment, shutting down the run. Locklear had cut off Cummings from the play, and they needed to make a tackle.
It's a short corner presented by All Year Cooling and Plumbing, and now this will roll across the end line, and this time it's going to be a goal kick for DC Power. No score as we head into minute number 11 here at Beyond Bankcard Field in Fort Lauderdale. All time in this series, it is DC Power on top, 2 victories, 1 defeat, 2 draws. The only victory for Fort Lauderdale United came in the opening showdown between these two sides last year.
And this is only the second time these two teams have seen each other, which is rare in this league. It was all the way back in November 12th to be exact. And DC Power came away with the W there, 3-1.
Nifty footwork. Kat Gonzalez, who had the goal against Carolina Ascent a week and a half ago. More build-up for Fort Lauderdale United. Low cross! Does it trickle across? No! At the last moment, Gottschalk able to gather the ball into her body. It's the second glorious opportunity of the night for Fort Lauderdale United. Gottschalk equal to the task.
And you can see Fort Lauderdale just wanting to hunt for that goal. They are so hungry for it in front of net. I love the way that they're just building up right in front of the 18, being patient, and just throwing bodies in the box.
And another DC turnover, and Fort Lauderdale United back on the ball. They are enjoying all the possession here in this opening half. And this is a Fort Lauderdale United team who has scored only just north of 33% of its goals in the opening 45 this season, and boy, does this side look like it has some goals in it here in this opening 45. And another turn, and on the run, Fort Lauderdale United. Long ball up ahead. Abby Hughes, she has been extremely busy from her left back position. Just a bit late with the pass, a sliding tackle across the end line. We are going to have another All Year Cooling and Plumbing corner kick.
Well, again, fancy footwork. Kat Gonzalez, Emily Thompson just slips in Abby Hugh, and then Kiera Locklear goes to ground. Shania Gordon goes to ground. And then Gottschalk at the last second just pulled that one before it went over the line. Fantastic opportunity for Fort Lauderdale. This will be their second corner kick of the game.
And it's brought to you by All Year Cooling and Plumbing. How about Kiera Locklear just giving up her body, trying to get a touch on that ball, and Fort Lauderdale United with its second set piece of the evening. This is an in-swinger to the near post. Oh, Gottschalk had to make a play on it and then skying over the bar. Emily Thompson. She puts her hands on her head in disbelief, but Fort Lauderdale United asking a ton of questions in the early going.
You can feel it coming for Fort Lauderdale United. That was a beautiful in-swinging ball by Kat Gonzalez. It looked like it was just going to make it inside that front post, and then it fell to Thompson right there. She was unmarked, but couldn't put that one away, skied it over the bar.
We nearly had Kat Gonzalez Olympico. Meanwhile, on the other end, DC Power into the box, contact in the box, and this is going to roll on to Haley Craig, and we are seeing bodies flying here, both ends, some really urgent play. And the defense has found ways at the last moment to keep this 0-0. But issues in the back here for Fort Lauderdale United. Nearly a disaster. Kat Gonzalez had issues, finally cleared away.
DC will try to pin Fort Lauderdale in their build-up, especially around the 18-yard box. I'm surprised that one wasn't called a foul.
Yeah, that was a bulldozing from behind by Justina Gaynor. Meanwhile, in possession, DC Power to the penalty spot, and a poor touch there for Daishan Torbert. And this is going to end up being a nice, calm roller to Haley Craig. And we finally get a breather here. This has been an action-packed first 15 minutes. Two teams struggling to score. You'd never know it. This has been free-flowing here early.
And I'm loving the hard, crunchy tackles from both center backs. Leveni Vaca making that stop on Alyssa Walker, and then Claire Constant the other way.
Shania Gordon, her cross, and that is handled professionally in the back by Anna Bagley, but still in the attacking half. Let's work to the near side. Now Abby Hugh. A delivery forward and trying to get onto the end of this Thompson. She will in the corner. Thompson looks on. Thompson, nice speed in the box. It's still loose and finally fed onto the keeper. Gottschalk falls on it after Almendarez was able to deliver it back to her.
Thompson had time and space. I don't know if Hugh left that intentionally, but Van Treek tried to take that with her left foot. I would like to see her kind of allow it to come across her body, take that with her right foot, have her left foot planted so she has a better look on goal with her hips squared up there. But again, another promising opportunity for Fort Lauderdale. This time they're getting the ball on the flank and driving it in instead of just directly through the spine of the pitch.
Almost looked like Van Treek wasn't expecting that to be played through like it was. And there is a whistle and a foul in the midfield. Van Treek with a little shove as Fort Lauderdale United tries to get this back into play. A lot of this attacking for Fort Lauderdale United has come up the left side. Abby Hugh has been all over this attack at a giveaway. DC Power now trying to take advantage. Here's Colton. Colton, nice cutback. And she'll feed it into the middle channel. Gaynor rolls it off to the left-hand side. Almendarez, cross, and up off the head of an awaiting Daisha Torbert, but she mistimed the jump at the moment, but she was also not marked back there. An opportunity for DC Power.
Something that Fort Lauderdale has to be aware of, that back post run. Daisha Torbert's so good at getting the head on the ball normally, and she has the height to do it. Unmarked there by Abby Hugh in the back. They have to make sure they're just checking their back shoulder and yelling at their defenders, especially the center backs, the people that can see her, to know that she's there.
Daisha Torbert, 3 goals and assist on the season. She scored March the 21st at Spokane. Torbert, her college ball at UCLA and Georgia. That's where her parents went. Lifelong Bulldog, at least in heart. but suffered a gruesome knee injury, missed almost 2 years at Georgia, rehabbed, and has found her way into a professional career, a very effective professional career. This is her 12th start, 19th appearance of the season for DC Power. This will be skied into the midfield. Oh, that's a great touch. And on the move, Thompson, but tackled away at the very last moment. Almendarez with the slide tackle to break up that chance.
That was just a veteran slide tackle by Claire Constant, stopping Thompson in her tracks. A little bit awkward, but she didn't want to dive in with that 1v1 defensive style. She just wanted to slide and make sure that touch that got away from Thompson was a 50-50 battle she won.
Giveaway in the midfield. And you mentioned Claire Constant. That was another instance of some physical defensive play, and Fort Lauderdale United has to go back and retrieve in their defensive half. Well, there is certainly desperation for both sides. In different situations, different paths this season. DC Power now 6 points on the wrong side of the playoff line. Oh, this is played through. Getting behind the defense is Fort Lauderdale United, but the flag is up, and it's an offside. Just a couple of steps ahead of the action, Abby Hugh. And there is the flag as we approach 20 minutes in. It looks like Gottschalk has an issue here with her right leg.
Well, I want to go back to that ball play by Emily Thompson to Abby Hugh that was running, threatening on that back line. Thompson comes all the way down into that midfield, almost into her own back line to receive the ball, and really no look pass through ball to Abby Hugh and Kiara Locklear, who were trying to link up play there. Called off sides, but you're just seeing Fort Lauderdale try to create in different ways. Open to Mozzie trying to figure out how to break that down. But that young lady, Emily Thompson, has done so well today in her second consecutive start with this side in Fort Lauderdale United, and just ignited something within this team. You never know when you bring new players into a roster how that might affect the culture of a club, and it's looked like from the outside looking in that she has just ignited something within this team. And here's just what a little bit of what she can do. This goal was called off sides, but Shania Gordon just picks her head up, sees Thompson threatening in between the two center backs. She was a few steps offside, so that smile will fade, but she'd had the opportunity to get on the end of a lot of balls. You see Kiara Locklear going to threaten down this flank side, cutting off her defender, and then almost getting the goal moment there. It's just been a lot of Fort Lauderdale this half. DC Power having to figure out how to defend against the onslaught of bodies you're seeing thrown into the box. Thompson just being one of them, and this was the clear opportunity she had. You can see her number 10 there right in front of the 6-yard box, unmarked, but just couldn't get her body over it.
Emily Thompson, right now, she's got to feel like she's been hard done, because she has had some glorious opportunities, including that waved off goal that you were describing, Jade. Emily Thompson, only her second appearance of the season for Fort Lauderdale United. She looks like she's put in a full 21 matches at this point, only 22 years old. She's one of only 3 players on this Fort Lauderdale United roster from the area. Went to nearby American Heritage Plantation High School, went to West Virginia and UCF for college. And then there's Abby Hugh, who was a midseason acquisition. We've called her name and seen her a bunch tonight. She has a goal and an assist, but this is only her 7th appearance in a Fort Lauderdale United shirt. DC Power quickly after the restart. This is going to trickle all the way on to Haley Craig. Tonight's game presented by Hard Rock Bet, bringing the thrill of the game straight to your fingertips. It's Hard Rock Bet.
Olay by Abby Hugh with the Meg.
And Abby Hugh back to the races. Rolls it on to Thompson. Feel like we put that into the universe, those two. Just talking about them. They've had good link up here tonight. But that is sent right to Ibarra. Loza Ibarra, she can do an awful lot on the ball. Here as she comes. Ibarra trying to win a foot race. And that is not handled, but we do have a whistle, and we have a stoppage, and we have a foul, as it looks like Ibarra put two hands in the back of Grasso as they battle to the end line.
I think that's hilarious from Ibarra. She knew the ball was going out of bounds, and Jules had cut her off, but just to try to keep it in, might as well, right?
Well, Ibarra is a wily veteran. Sometimes you'll get away with that, sometimes you won't. Thompson, left box, low, chopping cross. Oh, what an adjustment, and a left-footed clearance away from danger. There was a trailer making a run. Cummings showing off the stretching ability.
This ball just played through the back line of DC this time. Thompson doesn't get the right pace on this ball, but like you mentioned, Sid Cummings should open up her body and put that one away with her left foot. When you're running back towards your goal, you never want to try to clear the ball facing it just in case it goes in for an own goal. What a veteran move by her to open up her hips and try to clear that one away.
All Year Cooling and Plumbing brings you this Fort Lauderdale United corner kick. This will come near side, and this is sent short, about 28 yards away. Oh, this is a good ball in the box, but a heavy touch, and it rolls across the end line. Well designed, but Maggie Mace just could not find the footing.
I mean, they could not have drawn this plate up better. Maggie Mace just doesn't get the right touch on it. It was a perfect ball through by Kelly Van Treek. Almost executed to perfection. And that's one of those you can't use twice, right? Once you use it once, they pick up on it, and you can't use it for the rest of the game or maybe the rest of the year, depending.
Got to put that back in the bag at that point. Now, Fort Lauderdale United, it certainly appears as if they have picked up some confidence after that two-game road swing. They lose 2-0 to Lexington, but the 2 goals they conceded in that match came in a 10-minute span. Other than that, it was pretty even for a side in Lexington that's on the right side of the playoff line. And then they get that late equalizer against Carolina with that 1-1 draw, and they certainly have taken from that, it appears. Paul Jennison has got to be thrilled with this first 25, even though the scoreline still sits 0-0. Fort Lauderdale United going to continue to handle possession. There has been a common refrain here in the opening half.
Definitely some renewed energy within this Fort Lauderdale side that has been on the road for the past 2 games. You go to play at Lexington, you play at Carolina, and then you get to come back to your home field, no matter how muggy it is. I'm sure they love playing at home.
Oh, the keeper came off the line. Here's a chip, a wide open goal, and there is the breakthrough. Emily Thompson with the goal she deserves. It's her first in a Fort Lauderdale United shirt. 1-0 Fort Lauderdale United. Gottschalk was laying on the ground and could do nothing about it.
And Emily Thompson, here are your flowers. You've been working so hard this entire half. Steps into this Fort Lauderdale United team, and what an impact. This ball through to Locklear, uses her speed to cut past Gottschalk and Cummings. All Thompson had to do was tuck this one away, pass it into the back of the net. Gottschalk came out. I'm not sure what she decided to do there because she had so much room, but Emily Thompson, clear as day, going to finish that one, and Fort Lauderdale United up 1-0 big here at home.
This Fort Lauderdale United goal brought to you by Baptist Health, committed to keeping their athletes and community at their best. Indecision from McKenna Gottschalk, and she pays for it. Fort Lauderdale United, Emily Thompson, she's had 3 premier heavenly opportunities, and she's able to plant that one. And of all the chances she had, that was the easiest one, and she's able to calmly chip it into the middle of goal. It's the first lead for Fort Lauderdale United since all the way back on February the 14th when they early on went up 1-0 against Brooklyn. That is a sigh of relief here for this Fort Lauderdale United side. And now, meanwhile, DC Power, they're playing from behind, and they are going to have to do so with some dimming playoff hopes.
And for Fort Lauderdale, yes, a sigh of relief, but not one to take their foot off the gas. They have to continue to execute in front of net. They're going to get more opportunities. We've seen it all first half.
I mean, it is a 67-32 advantage as this is a one-hop from distance right on to Haley Craig. But you've got a 68, I should say, 68-32 possession edge for Fort Lauderdale United. That is prodigious, and we're still shy of the half-hour mark. This will be sent out of play. This is going to be a midfield throw-in for Fort Lauderdale United, and our referee, Alejo Kalume, says, Shania Gordon, let's go ahead and bring it back to where the ball actually went out of play.
You always have to try to walk up a few steps.
Absolutely.
And then a few more after that.
Just seeing what you can get away with.
Yeah.
This is delivered right on to DC Power, Claire Constant. Now trying to organize some attack is DC Power. Abera.
Every time that DC has had any sort of attack generated, it's because Fort Lauderdale has given the ball away in their own defensive third. The build-up and the press from DC is allowing Fort Lauderdale to cough up the ball and give it to them in either right in front of their goal or soon enough for them to try to get a shot on net.
Torbert sends it on to Colton. Colton navigates. Colton facing two defenders. And that was won back briefly by Fort Lauderdale United, but able to run onto it was Bagley. Job not done yet for Fort Lauderdale United, and that was ambitious, and that is headed off the sponsor boards. Select is the official match ball supplier of the Gainbridge Super League and many elite leagues throughout Europe. Visit us.select-sport.com for the latest Select products, specials, and more. Select, the player's choice. With Jade Barquette, I'm Ken Levicka. Fort Lauderdale, Florida, beyond Bankard Field. Emily Thompson is the goal scorer for Fort Lauderdale United.
A former UCF Knight, just like myself.
A little Golden Knight pride there.
We did not overlap, but I did see her in Orlando a few times when I was calling their games.
Still warms your heart a little bit.
Yes. Madison Mernon on the DC side as well. She's a former alum Knight too. Played with her, actually. She was a senior when I was a freshman, so that was my captain.
So alum night is a thing.
Alum Knight is a thing,
Okay.
yes.
All right. It's creative.
There's a lot of it. UC Family, that's another one they use a lot. Let me think, and I'll get you some throughout.
That's some Jade Barquette on top of the marketing for UCF.
I get a lot of texts, you know?
We are past 30 minutes in. Fort Lauderdale United with the 1-0 advantage. DC Power, by the way, they came into this match just shy of 200 consecutive minutes without a goal. Fort Lauderdale United with the giveaway in the back, and you mentioned, Jay, the only attacking prowess for DC Power has really come off of turnovers in the defensive third. That one, though, survived as it rolls across the end line.
It's really been that second pass from Craig to one of the center backs, and then that consecutive pass after that is what DC's picking off. That one, Haley Craig gives it away immediately to DC in a dangerous spot, but DC's doing a good job of pressing them and making it easy for the people behind them to dictate play, to pick the ball up like we've mentioned. Now can they do something with that? Because on the other side, when Fort Lauderdale does give it away, they're closing the space really well.
And this will be a free kick for Fort Lauderdale United. When I was attempting to do the math in my head, should be pretty simple. It was 199 minutes consecutively without a goal for DC Power. And so you add 32 to that. And so you are at 233 minutes now consecutively without a goal.
I'm glad
for
you
DC
could do
Power.
math.
Oh, boy.
I can't do math.
I'm sweating. That was really, really arduous. Fort Lauderdale United back on it. And a long ball. Chase down. Locklear looks around, looks for a flag, and there it is as she approaches the ball, and there's the whistle, and there is the flag. She knew as she was racing her way onto that long pole. Foot speed for Fort Lauderdale United, though. They have not been afraid to just throw balls over the top and get off to the races.
No, that's something that they're going to need in this game, and I've loved that they've continued to use it. Kelly Van Treek, if in that position, we know Kiara Locklear has so much speed up top. Locklear initiate the run immediately. Kelly Van Treek play her sooner so that they can get that not offsides.
Torbert. Walker. Walker has it slid away by Leveni Vaca. It'll be an attacking third throw-in, but well timed by Leveni Vaca. DC Power was threatening up that left side.
There's absolutely no fear in Leveni Vaca. She came back this season after recovering from an ACL injury and has just jumped right back into this back line. Again, love this tackle, sliding, making all contact with the ball, making sure that it is well out of bounds and away from her goal. What a slide by Vaca.
Vaca, the first female professional soccer player out of Tonga. And there is a stoppage, and it'll be another midfield free kick. Restart play for Fort Lauderdale United. Just nothing sustained here for DC Power. DC Power has failed to score in 8 matches this season. That is the third most in the Gainbridge Super League. Hugh to Vaca. Punched forward, and DC back on it, but promptly give it away. Thompson. It's a good one-touch ball, Locklear. And the flag is up, and another offside.
Credit to DC for just keeping their line together as that ball was moving in and out with those one-touch passes for Fort Lauderdale. Great build-up by them, by the way, to get out of the DC pressure. But they know that Fort Lauderdale is going to threaten the back line with those runs through them and balls over top. So staying together as a backline unit is going to be so important.
Going to be very curious to see how Fort Lauderdale United continues to handle this advantage. Those have been few and far between since the last victory enjoyed by this club on November the 8th. They have not played with a lead very often. They had that 1-0 advantage at Brooklyn a couple of weeks ago, ended up a 3-3 draw, but almost immediately that lead went away. DC Power looking to make this lead go away. Bagley takes her time. Upper right of the box. This is chipped high into the air and no real threat from Gaynor. Craig simply had to wait for it to float to her, and she brings it into her chest.
In a game like this where DC's had few and far between chances, they have to take care of the ball when they do. Again, another giveaway for Fort Lauderdale in their own defensive half.
And it's Bagley again. She's starting to put her stamp on this. She's been active, constant. Gets around Thompson. Has to distribute back to about 35 yards out. Emily Thompson, the goal scorer, in this 1-0 Fort Lauderdale United lead. This is sprayed to the outside, far touchline. Corralled by Almendarez. Now Abera. Good look into the lower portion of the box, but that's swiped away out of play. There's been cloud cover here in South Florida. You can see the sun starting to peek through here in the late evening hours. Thompson back on the ball for Fort Lauderdale United, and she surveys her options. She's going to cut it back and wait for reinforcements. And they come in the form of Shea Moyer. Moyer making her debut in a Fort Lauderdale United shirt here tonight. Was signed on Friday. So the newcomer getting immediate run for Paul Jennison in Fort Lauderdale United. Moyer on loan from Lexington Sporting Club.
And then, again, this is just a game of hard tackles on both sides. DC just wanting to stop the run of Jules Grosso running down that far side, and then Jules knowing maybe that ball was going out of bounds. Didn't want to go too hard into it.
Moyer, as that pass picked off initially, then a fight in the box. And the foul is called on Fort Lauderdale United. Fort Lauderdale United last season made it all the way to the Gainbridge Super League final, falling to Tampa Bay. DC Power, meanwhile, they struggled for most of the season. And tonight, same point of the year compared to a calendar year ago, and it is DC Power battling for playoff lives. Well, Fort Lauderdale United, again, not mathematically out of it, but more of a spoiler role for the South Florida side.
That's why you can never rest on your laurels from last season or really try to compare the two, because reigning champs Tampa Bay Sun, they've struggled this season as well and are really trying to figure out how they're trying to make a push, if they can at all, for that playoff position.
Almendarez whips in a left foot. It never found a body, and it's going to be Bagley who races onto it. Bagley retreats for a moment. Now Torbert. Fed back to Torbert. She'll lofted to the left of the penalty spot. And a shot is blocked. Almendarez couldn't get that attempt by Shania Gordon. And another throw in for DC Power, trying to get themselves onto the front foot here in the closing just shy of 10 minutes. Abera tackled off the ball expertly. That was well done by Shea Moyer. And this will be distributed across the touchline.
And when DC has the ball, Fort Lauderdale is sitting back in that low block, and they're allowing the center backs and really the whole back line of DC to play in their defensive half and keep the ball there, trying to close any space they can play through.
Bagley making a run. Bagley, she's got some room, top of the box, left foot, and it's just wide. Craig ranging to her left, watched it helplessly, but it's just wide of the bar, and it remains 1-0 Fort Lauderdale United, but that is better from DC Power, and that was all Anna Bagley.
And she really didn't have anybody put a body on her, try to cut off the angle until the very end with Kelly Van Treek on her right shoulder. And that just credit to how she moves with the ball, uses her speed to just continue driving towards the center part of the pitch and get Haley Craig off-centered by shooting to her opposite leg, or on her opposite side, rather.
Now, Fort Lauderdale United is familiar with some heartbreak courtesy of Anna Bagley. She had the winner in added time late second half last November the 23rd in a DC Power victory over Fort Lauderdale United. And she is making her presence known here with her side really grinding to try and find an equalizer in what's turning into must-win matches. And if you're a coach, you're always going to say it's must-win. It's must-win, no matter what point of the season you're at. But now, as we head to the home stretch and you're sitting fifth in a league where the top four teams get into the postseason, this is must-win by definition.
That's something Paul Jennison said to us, was anyone who plays anyone in this league, it's a must-win game because of the level of competition within each side, and especially now once we get to just the later parts of the year where points that are on the table you have to grab.
This is sent into a crowd, and it falls to Abera, and a sprawling save by Craig. That was big-time pace from Loza Abera. One touch and turn, and Craig cut off the angle.
I love the center back to 9, straight ball through. Abera just lets it come across her body, and then once again, Haley Craig coming up huge when they need her the most. She's not called upon a ton to make saves, especially in this match. We haven't seen any, really, only one shot on target for DC Power, but that is a save she had to make, and when her number is called, she reacts, she punches that ball away and keeps it out of the net.
Craig, 2 saves tonight. She now has 23 on the season. She went to Stanford, was part of the 2024 Final Four team for the Cardinal. And she has acquitted herself nicely here with sporadic action with Fort Lauderdale United. Was part of the U17 and U19 with U.S. Soccer. That was a strong, confident save on one of the best finishers that this Gainbridge Super League has to offer. And just like that, DC Power back on it. Torbert opts to deliver this backwards, and DC Power going to reconvene. Sent to the outside. Torbert, left foot floater to the penalty arc. This is popped high into the air. Brought down by Colton. Now Hugh will earn her team a throw-in.
That was the best we have seen from DC possession-wise in this game so far. Claire Constant come up and just used her body to get in front of Emily Thompson to start that play. Once again, picking the ball off. And then from there, it was just DC trying to find the open woman with 1- and 2-touch passes. And you saw their back line just penetrating with balls through. Before Lauderdale in that low block, it's really hard to break through that. DC has to pull the ball out more to just open the field up a little bit, draw them out to then go back towards goal.
That ball rolls by Torbert, who is offside and watches it in frustration as it crosses the touchline. Sort of feels like with Fort Lauderdale United in complete command here in the first half. As we approach halftime, they're sort of hanging on by fingertips to get into the locker room. DC Power continues to have the ball here in the late stages of the opening 45. Emily Thompson is the difference right now for Fort Lauderdale United. In her second appearance for the club, she has herself a goal and a foul against Emily Colton of DC Power. Oh, 3 halftime leads this season for Fort Lauderdale United. 2 of those at home. So unless something drastic changes here in the next couple of moments, this will be halftime lead at number 4 on the year for the home side. We've got 2 minutes of added time here at the end of the first half. And while we give you that, Torbert for DC Power. Torbert lurches, sends it middle of the box, and it was whiffed on. That was a glorious opportunity, and it went right through the wickets. It was a beautiful ball for Torbert.
And she did the work, cuts this ball inside right at that PK spot. Again, Alyssa Walker tries to take that with her near foot instead of letting it come across her body.
But DC's not done. And here is a long, lofty shot, and it's up and over the seating.
It looked very similar to how Kelly Van Treek tried to take that shot earlier in this first half. Walker just rushing it, maybe not recognizing that the ball was coming across when it did, but when Deja Torbert is down that flank and she's almost to that end line, you have to know that the ball is coming at any second, and just mistimed that hit there.
That was a really good ball.
And she was in the perfect place.
Absolutely. Walker's not going to miss that very often.
No.
High caliber player. Justina Gaynor, speaking of high-quality players. Speaking of high-quality players, Abera right foot, it's the equalizer. Loza Abera, her 4th goal of the season. Fort Lauderdale United can't make it to halftime with the lead. A much-needed equalizer for DC Power.
And I just feel like it was coming for Abera. She's been so active here in this first half. Justina Gaynor has time and space. Nobody closes her down. Loza Abera with the missed tackle from Moyer has the time to pick her head up and just rocket that one into the far post. Craig comes out, leaves that exposed. It looks like it hits off of her shoulder a little bit there, but the deflection doesn't matter. Abera, with how much experience she has, is not going to miss from point-blank range. And just like that, it's all tied up here in the waning seconds of added time.
That is her 6th goal with this DC Power club. Again, 4th of the year, and was able to use some evasive footwork at the last moment, and there is the final whistle of the opening 45 minutes of action. It was Emily Thompson to get Fort Lauderdale United the advantage, but Loza Abera with the equalizer in the waning moments of added time, and it's 1-1 Fort Lauderdale United and DC Power. Entertaining first half, Jade.
And you can never count out DC Power, right? They worked hard in this game to come back. It was, like you mentioned, pretty much all Fort Lauderdale heavy, but then never count out Loza Abera, and she's going to make something happen for her team when they need it most. But Fort Lauderdale in control for the most part.
Let's go downstairs to Emily Thompson. And Emily, first half with a lot of opportunities for your side. You had 3 of them before you finally found a way to break through. What a wild first half for you. How does it feel to finally get on the scoreline?
Man, it feels amazing. I was kind of heartbroken on that last one that was offsides, but we got one. We got to get more. We're a tied game right now, so it's not done.
Yeah, you can see the joy on your face when you score that goal, but the seriousness when you said it was tied. How do you come into this next 45 and really put yourselves over and add some more to the score sheet?
Really just coming out hot again. I feel like we had a lot of chances in the beginning, and it kind of slowed down the end, so really just taking advantage of those, like the second half, the beginning of it, and just putting it away again. So it'll come.
Emily, thank you so much for taking the time, and head to the training room, and we'll see you second half, okay?
Okay, all right, thank you.
That is Emily Thompson, the goal scorer for Fort Lauderdale United. Loza Abera equalizes late. Halftime on the way. Fort Lauderdale United 1, DC Power 1. This is the Gainbridge Super League on Peacock.
Today, we accomplished nothing. I mean it, not a thing. And it was kinda everything.
This spring, stay 3 nights and get a $50 Best Western gift card.
Prinks tires in the USL help soccer journeys everywhere to drive harder. From city playgrounds to suburban sidelines, from early mornings to late nights, from fun with friends to winner takes all, from the biggest fan to the biggest heart. And at every turn, Prinks tires will be there for the long haul.
Hi, I'm Sloan Smith with All Your Cooling. Staying cool in Florida has never been easier. With All Your Cooling, you'll get no money down, no payments until 2027, and a 10-year parts and labor warranty. And now you can claim federal tax credits up to $3,200. For over 50 years, families across Florida have trusted us to keep their homes comfortable. From same-day installs to expert repairs, we deliver the service you need when you need it. Don't wait until your AC gives out. Call us today, 855-818-3828, or scan the QR code below.
What does it mean to feel welcome? To not only be cared for, but to be cared about, to trust. At Baptist Health, this is the warmer side of care. So welcome to being treated with a human touch, where your best interest is our best interest. Here, we advance innovation and treatments through research while educating the next generation of experts close to home. Welcome to the warmer side of care. Welcome to Baptist Health.
Staying cool in Florida has never been easier. With All Your Cooling, you'll get no money down, no payments until 2027, and a 10-year parts and labor warranty. Don't wait until your AC gives out. Call us today, 855-818-3828, or scan the QR code below.
iHeartRadio halftime show. Fort Lauderdale United 1, DC Power 1. An action-filled opening 45 minutes with Jade Marquette. I am Ken LaVicka. The Delta Airlines out-of-town scoreboard And Sporting Jacks with that 2-0 victory over Brooklyn. If this result holds here tonight in Fort Lauderdale, Sporting Jacks, welcome to the postseason. Dallas Trinity 3, Spokane Zephyr 1. And then it was Carolina Ascent with the 2-1 triumph over Tampa Bay Sun. Now, what is upcoming in the Gainbridge Super League? And that's a pretty attractive slate. A lot to digest in the home stretch here, Jid.
You're looking at that Carolina Ascent and Lexington game. It's going to be a battle for that second and third place in the Super League if everything stood today where it will be for that game. And that's going to be a battle between those two sides. And then the Florida Derby with Sporting Club Jacksonville and Fort Lauderdale United continues on Saturday as well.
So 1-1 scoreline, a new star shining bright in the Gainbridge Super League. Up next, how Sporting Jacks' Paige Kenton has gone from dominating in the classroom at an Ivy League university to leading the league in assists.
Here's Paige Kenton.
She's a warrior. She's resilient.
A fourth consecutive game with a goal.
It's frightening, to be honest.
I think I have 6 goals and 6 assists right now. She's very hard working. I think you can see that in the way she plays.
She's an honors neuroscience student.
Oh, 2 for 2, Paige!
It's like a perfect example of someone who has really blossomed in this league.
We do the daily 10s every morning. Today, we have a trivia that is all about Sporting Jacks. How well do you know the people you see every day? I don't think we expected to be sitting in this position.
I think the Gainbridge Super League and Sporting Jacks are really special in what they're doing for women's soccer here in the United States.
From our volleyball program, it's Hope Jackson. Let's go down the field.
It's a deadlock at the break in South Florida. Fort Lauderdale United and DC Power all level 1-1. First half highlights presented by Blue Water Books and Charts. And this was pretty high flying, Jade.
It really started with Fort Lauderdale and carried for them for most of this half. Emily Thompson started off on the right foot, but just on the wrong side, as this one was called offsides by just a few steps. She was right in between the back line of DC Power, and that wouldn't stop this attack for Fort Lauderdale. Emily Thompson was also a part of this play. Fancy footwork by Kat Gonzalez to just curve her defender. Played up to Kelly Van Treek, 1-2 with Emily Thompson, and then just driving down this near side. Bodies hitting the floor here, trying to put it away. Credit to Gottschalk for keeping this one outside of the net, but she wouldn't stop Fort Lauderdale for long because Emily Thompson finally gets her first goal in a Fort Lauderdale uniform and a first professional goal for her after Kiara Locklear beats the goalkeeper. All Thompson has to do is just tuck this one away, and they had the lead for most of this half, but Loza Berra, a veteran for this DC Power side, would not let up. She's had 3 shots in this game so far. This was one of her first opportunities, saved by Haley Craig, but the turn from Loza Berra just to key herself up for that one was clear that she was maybe about to score, and at the end of this first half, she finally gets her moment. Missed tackle by Shea Moyer, you see it there, and just opens up her hips, finishes top bins for Loza Berra. What a way to just bring your team back even into this match that was so Fort Lauderdale heavy.
Our Beyond Bank Card first half stats. Pretty fascinating. And there's a reason Fort Lauderdale United had a lead for most of the half.
Yeah, with the possession numbers, but towards the end, DC Power having a little bit more in that shots and shots on target category, but it doesn't matter when you put your chances away. You're going to see a little bit more even on the scoreline with it being 1-1. Nothing too crazy aggressively wise, but we've had some crunchy tackles on the back lines.
Fort Lauderdale United looking for the evasive win. DC Power looking to stay in the playoff race. Second half on the way. 1-1 Fort Lauderdale United and DC Power. Gainbridge Super League. Peacock.
Thank you for your contribution to our team and our community. Fort Lauderdale United is proud to partner with Visit Lauderdale, showcasing everything that makes our community special. From 24 miles of beautiful beaches to world-class dining, arts, and culture, Greater Fort Lauderdale is more than a destination, it's home. Thank you to Visit Lauderdale for helping us shine on and off.
Second 45 on the horizon in South Florida. Fort Lauderdale United, the home side, and DC Power, even 1-1. With Jade Barquette, I am Ken LaVicka. And two sides that have struggled to score here over the last several weeks, and you'd never know it, watching how free-flowing, fast-paced, aggressive these two attacks were.
I loved it. I loved both sides just coming out and playing free. Sometimes when you're in those positions of I have to score, or you put the pressure on yourself, it can lock you up. But both of these teams are looking like they're playing with a free mind and just allowing themselves to connect within one another. We talked to Emily Thompson at halftime, and she was just adamant that her team needed to put another 45 together like they started the first half, and that's something that her head coach Paul Jennison told us that they needed to do as well, and that to not let the drop-off happen at the end. You saw Loza Berra pick up that tying goal in extra time of the 45, but can they start off the same way that they did in that first 45, carry it through to the end of the 90 minutes?
And for DC Power, and I'm sure they'll never talk about it again, the scoring drought concludes at 246 consecutive minutes. So now we'll put that to bed, and everybody can move on.
And no more math for you.
No more math for me, thankfully. That's actually the most important part of that equation. Right. We're back underway in the second half. No substitutions for either side. Paul Jennison for Fort Lauderdale United and Omid Namazi for DC Power. By the way, wanted to mention Youth Development Night here in South Florida. And you saw a youth parade on the field at the break as this is whipped in, chested down, and sent out of trouble by Fort Lauderdale United. But the youth academies with Fort Lauderdale United, they train with the pro side, with the first division side, and consistently they show up to the first division matches, but also vice versa. You'll see the first teamers, the pros, that will watch the academy teams play. Just a real close bond within this Fort Lauderdale United organization, and so some well-deserved recognition at halftime here as the youngsters were able to take the field for a little bit.
It's so exciting when you're that kid. You're watching those players that you want to be like play on a weekly basis here at Beyond Baycard Field, and for them to give back to that younger generation as well, it inspires the youth. Fort Lauderdale United told us that Abby Hugh, Kelly Van Treek, Taylor Smith, and Daniela Todd were really four players that are constantly around that youth side and really just inspiring them day in and day out.
Early on, DC Power in the attacking half and charging forward. That'll be deflected away, and we're going to have a throw-in for the visitors. It's a two-game Sunshine State road trip for DC Power. Next up, Tampa Bay, and then they'll be home in the nation's capital to take on this same Fort Lauderdale United side. As you mentioned, Jade, earlier, very rare at this junction of a Gainbridge Super League season to have two sides only play each other for a second time as we head into the later parts here, or deeper into April, but making up for it in a three-match span here. And I asked Paul Jennison this week, does that help short-term preparation? You're going to have two matches later, the same opponent, and he said, nope, absolutely not. You prepare as hard and as really, really in-depth as you have to every single match. So no corners cut. There's not going to be any cheat sheets after this one.
Never. You just want to build off the things that you did well when you're playing a team that quickly after. You want to build off the things that you did well and then watch film on some of the detail side of things that you can clean up, the small margins of error.
That's a bad giveaway, and here comes Ibarra, always dangerous for DC Power. She turns and she distributes. Here's a pass into the box from Colton. A shot goes off the bar. It was nearly 2-1 in favor of DC Power, and the pressure's not done yet. Bagley at the border of the box. Played back to Torbert. Colton. Now Bagley. Flag is up. Offside. But that was once again DC taking control of possession. And this was a wonderful ball from Colton. And Deja Torbert put a huge rocket shot behind it and blast it off the woodwork.
That's something that has been plaguing DC Powers. They'll get the chances, but they hit the woodwork or it just doesn't fall their way. Deja Torbert finding herself open after Emily Colton had just drawn those few defenders. And we just talked about something that Fort Lauderdale needs to fix. It's those giveaways at the back. They have to clean those up when they play DC again. Credit to DC, who's using their press to their advantage and allowing or making Fort Lauderdale cough the ball up more, but Fort Lauderdale has to clean it up in the back, especially if they want to continue to build out.
And as you say that, DC Power charging forward once again. That's a good tackle, and that's delivered out of play.
Walker and Jules Grosso just going at it again. Perfectly timed slide by Jules to get that one away from Walker, and it would have been a 1v1 scenario if Alyssa Walker would have picked that ball up.
Grosso has had her work cut out for her this evening. As this is launched forward, Locklear, can she get onto it? The answer is no, and that is blasted away by Madison Mernon. A fight forward in the midfield, claimed by the visitors in blue. Worked on to Torbert. Torbert holds up play for a moment. Bagley calling for the ball, makes a run, and Torbert opts to continue surveying. Now Bagley. Deflected away. But another opportunity coming, DC. Power left foot and a save. It's loose in the box. Torbert denied again. This time after another loose ball, it floats wide of the left post. And Fort Lauderdale United able to evade disaster, but DC Power red hot and aggressive coming out of the locker room.
Claire Constant just picks this ball up, and Deja Torbert, I love the confidence she has to take that shot. Haley Craig once again coming up massive for Fort Lauderdale, and then Loza Berra wanted that brace. That ball just goes wide. Fort Lauderdale was doing a good job of defending in that moment. Emily Thompson, who should have been on the other side of Claire Constant so that she wouldn't have even received that ball, looks like she might be injured right now.
Paul Jennison looks on from the touchline. Thompson has the training staff out to look at her. See Shania Gordon looking on, and we see some movement now. Daniela Todd just shot up off the bench for the home side. Emily Thompson, the goal scorer for Fort Lauderdale United, receiving the treatment. She'll get her left leg looked at. Loza Berra with the equalizer for DC Power, but all the way back in the 26th minute, Emily Thompson able to break the scoreless tie.
Just a quality finish from the rookie. Kiara Locklear does most of the work with her speed and drawing Gottschalk out. All Thompson had to do was tuck that one away, and she has had multiple opportunities there in that first half. One goal called back, and was a part of a lot of the attack for Fort Lauderdale in that first 45, and has been instrumental in the second half as well. It'll be difficult for them to recover without her speed there up top. Daniela Todd, also a quick player, but the way that Emily Thompson has been able to come back into the midfield and work as well, getting the ball at her feet, turning forward, and then playing as well, has been invaluable. Daniela Todd has to bring that same level of energy.
Well, the penny's not off yet, as Emily Thompson continues to receive treatment. Again, looked like they were stretching out a left leg on the 22-year-old. The third signing with the club in this local Fort Lauderdale area. And Thompson comes off. And she'll head to the touchline, and we'll see what her availability is going to be here the rest of the evening in the 53rd minute.
Saw the thumbs up from one of the athletic trainers, and love to see her walking and with a smile on her face. All good signs, and looks like she might re-enter into this match.
With Jade Marquette, I'm Ken Levicka, and it certainly looks like Emily Thompson is preparing to get back into the match when she gets the go-ahead. Tonight's game is presented by Vera Cadillac, Buick, GMC, South Florida's trusted destination for luxury and performance. Well, DC Power, they've had performance here in the second half, and it's looked pretty luxurious, to be honest. It has been incessant pressure from DC Power.
Well, right there again, they made Fort Lauderdale cough up the ball because of their press. It's worked so well for DC this entire game. Fort Lauderdale, if they're going to try to get out of their own defensive half, they have to look longer, either off of the goal kick or after that first pass, because DC is locking them into a corner and not allowing them out.
This is delivered off ahead, high into the air. And this will roll right back on to DC Power. The pressure just coming in waves right now. Justina Gaynor. Gaynor will send it back into the attacking midfield. Murnan. Here's Sydney Cummings. Cummings with a whole lot of room to operate. Has Abera. Abera has it slid off her foot by Haley Craig. Read it well, but there is so much room to operate for DC Power right now in the attack.
We saw that connection center back to 9. That ball just got a little bit out of Abera's reach, but I love the direct ball from the center back, Sid Cummings. She sees Abera in that pocket of space open.
And it just continues, looking for Abera again, this time unable to get through, but then an attempt at a clearance is blocked back, and this has become arduous for Fort Lauderdale United. Maybe a breath of fresh air here finally. Shania Gordon. Gordon comes forward with Almendarez in pursuit. This is sent to the outside. That's a pretty good ball. Emily Thompson to the middle! Oh, it was almost slid home. Giving up her body, Kara Locklear. It was almost spectacular. Well, something out of nothing for Fort Lauderdale United on the break.
They use the counterattack opportunity. Thompson plays this ball right into stride with Kiara Locklear. And Locklear might have been looking for a PK there on Constant, who made contact with her back as she was trying to reach that ball. But again, Fort Lauderdale not giving up here in the second half.
Now look out as Abera's behind the defense. Abera gets onto the ball. Good recovery from Fort Lauderdale United. Oh, that is blasted just wide. This is wide open football right now. Alyssa Walker gave it a ride, but it's sent left.
Unselfishly, Loza Abera realizes the numbers, drops it off to Walker, who was in stride, and just opened up her hips a little bit too much on her left side. What an opportunity there for Alyssa Walker. We haven't called her name a ton here in this match, but as the second half ticks on, I'd like to see her get on the ball more and link up with Loza Abera, because it really has just been the connection of Sid Cummings and Loza here in this match.
Abera. Another play through. Here's Gaynor. To the top of the box. Can Walker get there? No. It is sliced out of play on the near side. Almendarez the throw-in. It reaches Walker, who turns and sends a left foot behind the goal. Well, put yourself in Paul Jennison's mind, if you could, Jade.
Okay.
Fort Lauderdale United interim headman. You see your defense being shredded like this, and there's so much room for DC Power to operate. At what point do you pull the trigger here on a substitution and bring in a reinforcement?
I don't know. I think it has to do with the players, with their players and their fitness. It looks like they're not scrambling fitness-wise. They're just needing to get control of this game like they did in the first 15. All
your cooling and plumbing corner kick, and that's cleared away. And DC Power will have the throw-in. They'll do it again with Fort Lauderdale United trying to extend this defense. And they do end up winning it back, and a foul. Spun down is Shea Moyer. Colton, the guilty party. So the first substitution is going to be to DC Power. Kiki Maki will enter the fray. So Maki's going to replace Anna Bagley as we approach the hour mark in this 1-1 contest. Splitting two defenders, cutting back to the right foot and swept away. Fort Lauderdale United. Can they get out on the break? Thompson bracketed, and now a long ball. And this is delivered all the way back to the keeper, McKenna Gottschalk, who's just sort of been hanging out in the second half for the most part. Now Thompson, a rare attacking third touch right now for Fort Lauderdale United. Here's Locklear. Locklear, 1v1, floats it back post, but nobody home, and it's miss-hit. And after all that, goal kick for DC Power.
I thought there was a deflection on it. They will call this one a corner kick as Kiki Maki will make her way onto the pitch. Locklear had Kelly Van Treek right around that PK spot, but just couldn't pick her head up to find her there. If Fort Lauderdale is going to use that long ball to really push DC back, they have to get the numbers forward with Kiara Locklear. We saw it a little bit with Emily Thompson picking up that pass. Madison Mernon deflected off of herself. So if they're going to use the long ball, they have to make sure that they put the numbers in place where they can help in that final third.
So the recent DC Power signing Kiki Maki replaces Anna Bagley. And that substitution brought to you by Omega XL Sport. And now an all-year cooling and plumbing corner kick. As Jade mentioned, that did indeed take a deflection. And the referee, Alejo Kalume, has to go do some policing in the box. It's definitely been physical here tonight. The urgency has been pretty palpable for both of these clubs. Kat Gonzalez, right-footed in-swinger, delivers, floating into the 6-yard box, and a goal! It's poked home! Standing and waiting for the ball to strike her foot on that back post. It went off of that back post, and it's able to spray into the back of the net. 2-1 advantage, Kelly Van Treek.
And Kat Gonzalez, a beautiful delivery once again from the corner. Kelly Van Treek just gets a tad bit inside of her defender and pokes this one home. She's a player who's known for just putting her body on the line for her team and for these opportunities, and she does just that. Gets inside of Claire Constant, who's been stellar all game, and pushes this one home with a little help from the post. Fort Lauderdale, who's been trailing a lot of this second half with the pressure DC has put on them, that's the breakthrough they needed to really get in control of this game.
What phenomenal effort from Kelly Van Treek, just muscling Claire Constant. It took a carom off the post and ends up beating McKenna Gottschalk. That is a stunning occurrence here in the second half with DC Power doing everything in the attack. It's Fort Lauderdale United that picks up the opening goal of the period. And this Fort Lauderdale United FC goal brought to you by Baptist Health, committed to keeping their athletes and community at their best. Fort Lauderdale United has not had multiple goals in a game since February 14th, Valentine's Day. 3-3 draw, Brooklyn looking for more. That cross is blocked after Shania Gordon was coming forward.
And in a match where DC has just come out here in the second half and really overpowered you, they felt a lot of pressure to get a goal back. It pushes DC back. Now you're in a whole different mindset now here in the second 45. They have the lead. They have allowed DC to kind of take a breather and not have all of the momentum. The momentum is now on Fort Lauderdale's side. Can they use that to get in control of the match pace-wise and just really hold down the play, as Kelly Van Treek will get fouled hard here as after the ball was played. The slide comes in late.
And it is a yellow. Justina Gaynor has earned the first booking of the match. 2-1 Fort Lauderdale United. The host side, Emily Thompson, Kelly Van Treek with the tallies. And it extinguishes the equalizer right before halftime from Loza Abera. A free kick from distance. Emily Thompson stands over it. Left foot curls it, middle of the box, and for a moment it looked like Van Treek maybe was trying to track down that ball, but Gottschalk able to dive on it.
Love this little clipped ball over the top. Perfect pace from Emily Thompson. You see Kelly Van Treek there right in the mix once again, trying to get ahead on that ball.
Abera for DC Power, right with Julia Grosso. Grosso is going to win the ball first and does a nice job of escorting it out of play. Throw in, deep defensive third, Fort Lauderdale United. Fort Lauderdale United in second halves this year, their defense has been a sieve. They are last in the Gainbridge Super League with 24 goals conceded in the final 45. They will try and buck that trend here tonight. Walker, and that is going to sail all the way to the far side, and it will be a throw-in. So we're going to have our first Fort Lauderdale United entry off the bench. Kate Colvin will take Emily Thompson off. Thompson right now in the running for player of the match. She opened the scoring, and there is the official fourth referee signage hold as Colvin will welcome Thompson to the touchline. So Emily Thompson, 66 strong minutes tonight in her second appearance for Fort Lauderdale United. Her first goal of the season. It was unconventional, but it was effective.
It certainly was, and well-deserved after how much work she'd put in the attempts before that. This one going in. Emily Thompson, second consecutive start in her second appearance with the club, and she makes an exclamation point out of it.
And back to the bench, DC Power. We'll have Hannah Harney. Madison Mernon, her night is over at right back. So two substitutions now for DC Power. Down 2-1, looking for some prowess here on the ball. They put one on the post, or off the post early in the second half. We're all over Haley Craig's goal, but it's Fort Lauderdale United with the Kelly Van Treek tap in from a corner. And DC Power is going to have to get back to the type of urgency that they played the first 12 to 13 minutes of this half with. Another Fort Lauderdale United turnover. This is chipped to the middle and headed into the air. Some desperate defending from Van Treek, doing it all right now. A turn for Gaynor. Constant. Abera one-touches it back to Constant. Abera played it through. Takes a one-time back. Middle channel. Just trickles on to Constant. Constant has some room. Constant right foot blocked away. Shea Moyer took the force of that shot. She's down. Meanwhile, on the counter, here is Fort Lauderdale United. Racing into the box. Kate Colvin! It's 3 for Fort Lauderdale United. Locklear to Colvin. Perfection in transition. Fort Lauderdale United with a cushion.
And that's exactly what they needed. The sub, the game changer. She just stepped into the match, one of her first touches in this game. As soon as she comes on the field for one goal scorer, she becomes one herself. Maybe there's something in that handshake we need to be a part of, Ken, because this ball off the transition moment just continues her run through the midfield. Kiara Locklear slips her in at the perfect time. She cuts off the DC defenders and at the last second just toes that one through. It doesn't have to be the prettiest finish as long as it goes in the back of the net. Fantastic from Fort Lauderdale, who have really surged from nothing in this second half to up 2 goals. It's 3-1 Fort Lauderdale United here at home, and they need points bad.
Kate Colvin hadn't been on the pitch more than 90 seconds, and she scores a substitute. Kate Colvin beating a substitute, Kiki Maki, to the ball, and a nice, calm slot by McKenna Gottschalk. Super sub Kate Colvin, and that Fort Lauderdale United goal brought to you by Baptist Health, committed to keeping their athletes and community at their best. That's Baptist Health. Number 1 for Colvin on the year, the former Texas A&M Aggie. And boy, what an immediate impact, in her fresh legs shown very, very prominently there.
And only her 8th game played as well, Ken, and it's such a story when you can sub into a game and completely switch on and be that game changer. And I truly think there was something in that handshake between her and Emily Thompson, because as soon as she stepped on, she scored.
That goal-scoring touch between the two. Looking for a quick equalizer. Walker had a shot blocked. Oh, she was standing by herself for a moment inside the top border. Walker on it again. Here's Almendarez. Fort Lauderdale United attempting to get defensive shape. They do momentarily. DC Power trying to pull one back. This will be pushed back into the defensive midfield. You have to go all the way back to September the 13th, the last time that Fort Lauderdale United had a 2-goal lead. That was against Dallas Trinity. And for these players, surely it feels like ages ago, but they are 20 minutes away from the first 3-point tally since November the 8th, as that cross and attempt goes wide. Torbert ambitious and wasn't far off.
And really, we're seeing in the second half why Omen Namazi was sharing some of the frustrations with us as he was earlier this week. And they've had so many more opportunities. There's 5 shots for DC Power here in this second half. Final third entries are way higher than Fort Lauderdale's. The possession is in DC's hands as well.
Can Colvin do it again? Colvin into the area, and could this be 4? The answer is no for now, but it's not done yet. Van Drake to the far post and not able to get a touch at the pivotal moment. Shania Gordon, she had 2 chances and comes up empty.
And again, you're seeing just that 1v1 ability from Kate Colvin. Shania Gordon just can't finish it off, but the ball falls to Kelly Van Treek, another goal scorer in this match. A little bit of an awkward ball. I looked at that was a shot that had just gone a little bit wide. Shania Gordon trying to finish it off, but just couldn't. Fort Lauderdale once again turning this game on its head, trying to add a 4th goal in this match, which would be tying the most they've scored this season. Back to that game against Dallas, September 13th, where they won 4-1.
Walker just got away with a handball. The referee allows DC Power to come forward. Abera mishandles, able to win possession back. Now, DC Power needs to do something. They need to do it quickly. Maybe this is the something quickly. Walker! And that goes just wide of the near post. A collision of bodies in the box. Alyssa Walker is desperately trying to do anything she can to get her club within 1. And I believe a corner has been called.
It will be a corner for DC Power, an opportunity for them to add another to the score sheet. But credit to Jules Grosso here following the run of Walker. Jules Grosso is the outside back. She finds herself at the near post on the opposite end of the field to make that save. That is the level that Fort Lauderdale is at right now. So locked in to the little details, wanting to hold on to this lead.
A left-footed in-swinger on the way. DC Power, set piece, pivotal, high to the top of the box. Abera! Her right-footed shot is blocked. It came right back to her, and this time she pushes it out of play. So that all-year cooling and plumbing corner kick opportunity goes by the wayside. Fort Lauderdale United going to bring in Another substitute. This will be Taylor Smith. Smith, another one of the Fort Lauderdale area products. The first player, by the way, in Gainbridge Super League history to be signed to the First Division side from the academy. So Shania Gordon trotting over to the touchline. Everybody looking on, trying to sort out who's in, who's out. So there was some confusion. Initially, Shania Gordon thought she was coming off, but instead it's Kat Gonzalez. So Fort Lauderdale United takes off Kat Gonzalez. In the 75th minute, Taylor Smith comes on.
I thought there was a little bit of gamesmanship happening between Shania Gordon and the sub Taylor Smith, but we were all just a little bit confused. That's okay.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, a good 90 seconds tipped off there. Gainbridge Super League season in full swing. In fact, the home stretch. Visit GainbridgeSuperLeague.com for all the latest info, analysis, insight to all things Gainbridge Super League. Oh, that was a heavy collision on that near side.
Sid Cummings just got rocketed with the ball. Frustration from her, understandably.
Oh, man. Yeah, Shania Gordon rocketed it right into her face.
She's going to have to get checked out because it was a head injury. Unfortunately, I know exactly how she feels in that moment. You feel fine, but because of the ball hitting her in the head, they're going to have to just take her off the pitch, make sure that she's okay, and then allow her to re-enter if everything checks out.
When you get hit with the ball like that, too, it makes you angry.
Yes.
It's not like being hit by another player. Taking that right to the face, your first interaction, or your first feeling, I should say, is seeing red.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it's uncomfortable, it's sudden, it stings.
A little bit of embarrassment.
Yeah, there is a little bit of embarrassment, though. There is nothing that she could have done about that.
No.
Julia Grosso. And now long ball forward. Locklear's going to get on the end of it. She has a trailer. Gordon into the box. Gordon, right foot, and she punched it well wide. Mishit that. She was coming with an angle from the right-hand side. Looked like she was a little bit indecisive with that shot and ended up chunking it.
I think indecisive is the right word there. I would have loved to see her just take that one across her body with her left foot. She would have had a better angle on it than trying to hit that one with her right, especially with the inside of her foot. Hard angle there for Shania Gordon, and then they also had a numbers up situation with Sid Cummings still getting her head checked out on the side, so they could have taken full advantage of that opportunity.
The complete 180 in this match has been striking, where in the vast majority of the opening 45, Gordon can't find a way to get onto that. It is cleared away by Kiki Maki. But in the first half, you had Fort Lauderdale United on the ball constantly as this is floated into the area, not dealt with. Finally, it is by DC Power. Fort Lauderdale United attacking third consistently, except for the final 10 minutes of the first half. And then DC Power strikes right before halftime. Here in this second half, DC Power in the attacking third so often, and it's Fort Lauderdale United just in transition on the counter that has beaten this DC Power defense up over and over and over again. Just completely different attacking approaches for Fort Lauderdale United, and it's led to this 3-1 advantage.
And you're seeing that as they have grown into this match and they've put the 2-goal lead ahead, that they've pushed DC back, and it's almost secured Sporting Jacks to have that #1 spot in the league, clinching the playoffs and the Players' Shield. Reminder that if Fort Lauderdale won or drew tonight, Sporting Jacks would secure that spot, and Fort Lauderdale doing their Florida foe and also partner a favor there.
Some Sunshine State love, potentially, from Fort Lauderdale United.
Correction, it will just be the playoff berth secure, player shield to be determined for Sporting Jacks. I may be speaking that into existence for them.
They certainly are in a good position right now, that's for sure, and appear to be on the verge, in fact, are on the verge of being the first Gainbridge Super League side in 2025-2026 to make its way into the playoffs. There is Shea Moyer, the newcomer for this South Florida side. Grosso up ahead to Gordon. Flag is up, offside. Now, Fort Lauderdale United had only scored the opening goal 7 times this year. They did that tonight for the 8th time. They have conceded 24 times in a second half this season. Haven't done so yet in this second 45. They've only scored both halves 3 times this year. They've scored both halves. So we're going to have more substitutions here for DC Power. It'll be Alexa Fraley. She'll come in as Walker checks out. Bedoya is going to make an appearance as well.
Jada Bedoya, a player who has recently come back from injury on her knee. She was a substitute in their last match.
This is lobbed to the right side of the box, headed down, and that is handled pretty easily.
She was a sub in their last match against Lexington in the 79th minute, so around the same time in that last game as well. And when we asked Omid Namazi kind of what her timeline is working back into games, and he really said if she looks good in training and she's progressing well on the training grounds, then we might see her get larger minutes sooner than we think here in this game, with Fort Lauderdale having a not decisive lead with only 10 minutes to play in regulation. They're going to give her that same amount of time to make an impact.
Now this will be a set piece. An all-year cooling and plumbing corner kick, which will come far side to near side for DC Power.
And we've got another all-year cooling corner kick coming up.
Looks like this is going to be Almendarez to handle it with her left foot. Well into the final 10 minutes of this match. Good pace on this corner, and it's nearly headed in, but it sprays wide. That was a good chance for Sydney Cummings. Also, Lexi Fraley was in the vicinity, just substituted on. That was floating precariously on that Almendarez delivery.
A beautiful in-swinging ball there, and from our vantage point, I thought it was curling in off of Paige's foot. Credit to her ball in, but just not enough to put away for her teammates in the box.
Well, we saw McKenna Gottschalk in the first half have to make a save on a potential Olympico, and that one was destined for goal. And I'm with you. It certainly seemed like that was cutting enough to force a save. As you mentioned with Jada Bedoya, those 8 matches missed has not helped the cause with that patellar injury. It's been a gruesome stretch from a health standpoint for DC Power. Back heel, shot, blocked, collision in the box, and it falls on to the right foot of Bedoya, but it's right at the keeper, and Haley Craig falls on it.
You can see the want from DC just throwing their body on the ball, trying to maintain possession in any way they can. Nothing really falling for them as a clear opportunity. That shot from Jada Bedoya, one of her first touches in this match, but right at Haley Craig, who will handle it perfectly.
This is lofted skyward, and a throw-in is conceded. That got through 2 defenders. Colliding towards the box, Almendarez. And it'll roll out of play, and another empty attack here for DC Power. Stay up to date with the Gainbridge Super League. Sign up for the Super Newsletter. Get news about your favorite team. Stories from around the league delivered directly to your inbox weekly. Sign up at GainbridgeSuperLeague.com/newsletter. You can hear that wind whipping around a little bit. In South Florida later in the week, supposed to get 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts.
Is it hurricane season yet? When
Not
does
yet.
that start?
Not yet. And we'll get there in, well, about a month and a half at this point. Now, a nerd like me looks at meteorological trends.
Yes.
I'm an old man, don't have much to do. a super El Nino appears to be forming in the Pacific Ocean, which typically cuts down on Atlantic hurricanes. How? I don't know. I haven't gotten to that point yet. I just know what I read.
Alrighty.
So hopefully that's the case. You can take that to your friends. You can impress them with your weather knowledge after that.
Sports broadcaster and meteorologist.
That's right. That's right.
He does it all.
I do it all. I only get paid for one, though. With Jade Barquette, I'm Ken Levicka. We are in Fort Lauderdale beyond Bancard Field. Fort Lauderdale United on the cusp of its first win since early November. It's 3-1 to the home side, and it has been counterattacking to death here for Fort Lauderdale United. That has been the key here in the second 45 after we went to the locker room even at 1. Locklear muscling, battling in the corner, trying to eat up some time. Locklear eventually has it poked away, and it's going to be a deep defensive throw-in for DC Power. Turned right back over. Gordon to Colvin. She has a goal fresh off the bench in this second half. Still going, and then finally has it taken off her feet by Harney. Harney is able to navigate through defenders and put one on the money to Bedoya. Bedoya looks on, has Abera to her left. Instead, opts to play it back. Harney, now Abera. Abera into the middle, and that'll be at the last moment sent away. Abera opting to pass as opposed to shoot from that tough angle, and Fort Lauderdale United got a foot on it. Bedoya now with DC Power asking some late questions. And Moyer sends it into the stratosphere, and it'll be Cummings to retrieve. Sends this one high into the air. Went off of an arm, no whistle. Throw in to the visitors from the nation's capital.
That was way too unselfish of Loza Abera. She has to take that herself, wide open. Eerily similar, honestly, to how she scored her goal. It looks like she's down right now on the pitch. Not a great look if you're DC Power, but I don't know why she didn't take that shot. She had the angle, the time, the opportunity, the perfect prep touch.
And a concerned look on the face of Omen Namazi. As you can imagine, with the potent Loza Abera laying on the ground, clutching at her right leg.
And it's the collision here with Maggie Mace that shows that where she went down on the pitch. She was holding, it looked like her hamstring when she went down.
Yep. Already 4 substitutions for DC Power. This could be a defeat for DC Power unless they come back that they look to if they miss the postseason and say to themselves, man, what a missed opportunity.
They have the ball right in front of the 18. Look how much time and space Loza Ibarra has. Nobody closes her down. And then she drops the ball off to Jada Bedoya, maybe trying to get her a first goal back from injury. Unselfishly as a teammate, but she has to take that ball herself. Honestly, first time as it's coming across her body. Haley Craig was shifting over. Nobody was closing her down. Missed opportunity there for DC Power.
Saw a couple of these players head to the touchline, get themselves some water. Hydration break presented by LaCroix Sparkling Water. And there is the afflicted Loza Ibarra hobbling off the pitch. A minute left, but there certainly is going to be, I would imagine, a decent amount of added time here. After that throw-in, resuming play with 10 players on for DC Power. It's one back by the visitors, and promptly long ball up ahead. Bedoya can't handle, and the flag was up regardless.
I want to reiterate what I was saying earlier on in this match, that this second half is exactly what Oma Damazi has been just upset or frustrated with this entire season. They have had more expected goals, almost 2, in the second half for DC Power. More shots inside the box, touches in the opposition's box, and possession in this second half, yet the scoreline is showing a completely different game. And that's something that he is obviously going to reiterate within his team, but at this point you have to wonder, how do they just put games away and really capitalize on those opportunities that they have, especially in the second half where they came out on top.
This cross right into the chest of McKenna Gottschalk.
It really looked like DC was going to, make a statement here in the second half when they came out in those first 15 minutes and was on the front foot, pushing Fort Lauderdale back, really having most of the opportunities. The stats say that story as well. But it's really about when you are in those pressure-filled moments and can put the ball away. It's a mentality thing with Kelly Van Treek's goal. Just muscling it through to break the tie.
Well, we thought there would be a, quote, decent amount of added time, and that decent amount turns out to be 8 whole minutes here. Alejo Kalume looked at his watch and said, yeah, we've had a bunch of downtime here. So 8 minutes for DC Power to try and find something. And it'll be an attacking third throw-in for Fort Lauderdale United. Goals for Thompson, Van Treek, Colvin. The lone goal for DC Power, 45+2, Loza Ibarra.
8 minutes is plenty of time for DC Power to not only get 1 goal, but potentially 2, or with soccer, you never know how this game can go, potentially 3. They just have to get on the ball to do that.
Well, if this result holds, as we've discussed, Sporting Jacks is into the postseason, and it looks more and more likely as the time ticks. If this result holds as well, DC Power, after falling 6 back of the final playoff spot, makes up no ground tonight on Dallas Trinity. And if this result holds, this is going to be a perfect defensive half for Fort Lauderdale United, the team that came in allowing the most second 45 goals in the entire Gainbridge Super League. So checking a lot of interesting boxes here tonight, potentially.
Well, Veni Vaca just gets shoved in the back there from Fraley as she was playing that ball. Definitely a little bit of a frustration foul there.
Oh, wait, we didn't mention Laveni Vaca has the captain's armband on for Fort Lauderdale United.
I saw when Shania Gordon was getting subbed off, she did hand it off to her, but then when Kat Gonzalez came off and Shania stayed on, I saw the look that Lava looked at Shania and said, "Do you want it back?" And she looked at her and kind of just waved her hand and said, "No, you got it." 2 leaders in their right. A band, I wore a captain's armband for a few years in college, and there's so many captains on a field regardless of who is wearing that band, and the meaning behind it obviously is more for just a referee standpoint, but there's so many leaders and captains on one field at a time.
Well, last year, Vaca was second team all Gainbridge Super League, then had that season-ending injury that cut things short. But even with the rough season for Fort Lauderdale United, she looms large. She's extremely effective. So even if it was a mix-up, deserved captain's armband.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Emily Colton stands over this free kick. We are nearly 4 minutes into 8. Colton awaits the whistle. And this is hit high to the right side, headed into the mixer, and harmlessly bounces out of play. Goal kick, Fort Lauderdale United, Haley Craig. Man, this got off to a rough start in the second half for Fort Lauderdale United. Just chances galore for DC Power. But as soon as Kelly Van Treek was able to score off the corner, everything tilted Fort Lauderdale United's way. And DC Power has never been able to regain footing since conceding that corner goal.
And if you look at the game as a whole, it's really been Fort Lauderdale just starting off on their front foot in that first half, dropped off, continued that drop off into that second half, but then as soon as Kelly Van Treek scored that goal, you saw just new life within this Fort Lauderdale side. That's something that Paul Jennison wanted to see from his team, a full 90 put together. Obviously, you're going to have ebbs and flows because it is soccer and the game is not linear. But his team has pulled away in this one in ways that they needed to figure out within themselves, and I feel like they relit fires within each other as individuals throughout this match.
Now, Fort Lauderdale United next up, Sporting Jacks on the 11th of the month. His bodies hit the ground and a foul is called against DC Power. Perhaps Fort Lauderdale United can head north and receive a big thank you from Sporting Jacks for getting the top club in the league into the postseason.
Another collision between these two. Lava just taking the contact from Fraley, coming from behind once again.
Fort Lauderdale United then is headed up to the nation's capital to take on this DC Power club. That'll be April 22nd. Meanwhile, looks like a long trip back to DC for Power. And then it'll be right back to Florida to play Tampa Bay. And a yellow is shown. I think it's Shania Gordon who is showing the booking.
It will be Shania Gordon for just kicking that ball away. It wasn't far away, but if you make contact with that ball after the referee calls it, then you will get booked for it. I know all too well.
Been there, done that.
Been there.
And she'll gladly take that yellow for any additional seconds that can expire. So Fort Lauderdale United on this Monday night. Looks like the losing streak is over. Meanwhile, Gordon puts this off the post. Shania Gordon has been trying, hoping, suffering for a goal 3 different times in this second half and has found every which way not to have it find the net.
She picks it up right in the 18-yard box, and why not go right at goal? This one, again, unfortunate for Fort Lauderdale. It's off the crossbar. But I love Shania Gordon for just saying, you know what, I'll just take this myself. Cuts inside, uses the inside of her left foot to whip that ball in.
Well, you know, she's always going to be dangerous.
Yep.
And there have been 52 matches in the Gainbridge Super League history of Fort Lauderdale United. She has played and started in absolutely every one.
That's why she wears that captain's armband. That's why she, is one of the leaders on this team, driving the energy and the system of play they want to, and a huge part of their success last season, and carries that into this year like a chip on her shoulder.
DC Power, last gasp. That's calmly swiped away. The match has come to an end. It hasn't been since November the 8th that Fort Lauderdale United has enjoyed a victory, has enjoyed 3 points. That finally ends on April 6th. A 3-1 victory. Fort Lauderdale United takes down DC Power. It was a second half of perfect counterattack football. It gets the job done in South Florida.
All well-deserved smiles from the group who had to grind to get this win, but what a well-deserved 3 points for this Fort Lauderdale side who have struggled but always remained confident within themselves.
The match completely turning as Fort Lauderdale United ran and finally wore down DC Power. Let's head to our player of the match, and it is no surprise, Emily Thompson, player of the match, presented by Baptist Health. She got the scoring started. She was a huge threat in the opening half hour of this match. Her first goal, and she deserves this honor.
Absolutely. She had so many opportunities before that goal was scored, but puts one away for herself, got her team on top, started the scoring, and really was a force to be reckoned with throughout the rest of the game.
Baptist Health committed to keeping athletes in community at their best. Fort Lauderdale United 3, DC Power 1. Post game underway after this. Gainbridge Super League on Peacock.
The party doesn't stop at the final whistle, as you've just seen. Head over to the Filipino Lounge and join your fellow United fans for our post-game party. Filipinos are still valid. See you there.
Full time in Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale United takes down DC Power 3-1. And a nearly 5-month winless streak comes to an end with Jade Barquette. I'm Ken Levicka. And let's go pitch side beyond Bankcard Field with a smiley Kate Colvin, who picks up her first professional goal tonight. She does it 90 seconds into her appearance off the bench. She does it on the counter. A nice, calm, slotted finish. Kate, what a performance. What a way to make an impact and ice this match away. How does it feel to finally get a 3 points for this side?
It feels amazing. We've been working so hard, and the team just has been playing so well, so I'm so glad that we finally got points to show for it.
You just came onto the field and immediately made an impact. What did you see on that play? You touched Emily Thompson's hand. Was there some magic in that high five and then you slotted that one home?
Yeah, she's been doing great. So just trying to carry on and not drop the level when I came on. And one thing I can do is run. So I tried to bring that as soon as I came on.
Kate Colvin with us, the super sub for Fort Lauderdale United. She scored the goal to put this one away, number 3 for the home side, and brought to a 3-1 victory. Kate, in the second half, at the start, DC Power is threatening and threatening and threatening, but then things changed and everything started to tilt the other way. What was the difference in the attack from about the 60th minute on?
I think we just started to have some belief in ourselves. We started knocking the ball around, and we had a lot of great plays in the first half that didn't get finished, so I think we just put the last, just kind of icing on the cake there.
This is the first win since November for this squad. You guys always talk about belief within one another. What was really the turning point within this game you felt like to push you guys over the edge and get this 3 points secured?
I just think we had a great week of practice, as I think we've had a lot of weeks and it just hasn't been showing. But with new additions and just the faith that the coaches have in us, I think we all just had that and then belief in each other, and I think it really showed tonight.
A night to remember for Kate Colvin, her first professional goal. Her team wins. Congratulations, Kate. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
That is Kate Colvin. And let's head to our highlights of this full time, brought to you by Blue Water Books and Sharks.
Well, we talked about it. It was all Fort Lauderdale truly in that first half. This goal for Emily Thompson was called offsides. You can see there she was just a few steps ahead of Claire Constant and the rest of the back line for DC, to the dismay of her coaches, but those frowns would turn upside the other way after a little bit because this Fort Lauderdale team just continued to push. This was the goal that put them ahead 1-0 in that first half. Emily Thompson with her first professional goal, first in a Fort Lauderdale United uniform, and her second consecutive start for this team, has just stepped in and immediately made an impact. And then the saves for Fort Lauderdale would not stop. Haley Craig just coming up huge in the save of the game presented by Omega XL Sport, because she really kept her team in this match in that first half, continued in the second half, but this one would slip by her. Rosa Ibarra, who had so many opportunities for this DC side throughout this 90 minutes, just used her veteran experience to tuck this one away, top bins right past Haley Craig, and it was 1-1 going into halftime.
Then into the second half, DC Power, boy, were they pushing and pushing and pushing.
They really were, and you felt like something was going to fall for them. Deja Torber here hits the crossbar, because in that first part of that second half, it was all DC Power. They really just continued to push the issue, and then Kelly Van Treek says not anymore. This one with her chest pokes it through, beats her defender with a little bit of help from the post, tucks this one away. It was 2-1 Fort Lauderdale United. And then we just talked to the goal scorer, Kate Colvin. She touches Emily Thompson, who had started the scoring, her hand, and then uses her speed. She said, you know what, one thing I can do is run, and that she did. Just beats the entire back line of DC with that pass from Kiara Locklear and tucks it away. Doesn't even take her head up as she pushes this one in the back of the net, securing 3-1 win for Fort Lauderdale.
How about the numbers full time, presented by Beyond Bankcard. And Fort Lauderdale United, the possession evened up, the scoreline didn't.
It really didn't, and that's the difference for Fort Lauderdale. You saw the belief and the will to win within them, and that's why they are getting the 3 points here in this match.
Delta Airlines brings you the updated Gainbridge Super League table. Fort Lauderdale United now up to 7th, and Sporting Club Jacksonville is into the postseason.
They do clinch the playoffs with this win from Fort Lauderdale, and that bottom half of the table, it's going to be interesting. DC Power faces Tampa Bay next. If they want to stay at all in the conversation, they have to take care of business, because after that, they play Dallas Trinity right above them in the standings.
Yeah, DC Power, they watch Dallas Trinity win over the weekend, and they drop all 3 points tonight. Well, Fort Lauderdale United, they hadn't won since November 8th, and you can put it to bed. The losing skid, the winless streak has come to an end. Fort Lauderdale United behind 2 second-half goals. beats DC Power 3-1. Want to thank Emma Watson, our production side. For Jada Marquette, I'm Ken Levicka. This has been the Gainbridge Super League on Peacock.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League cannot be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the express written consent of the United Soccer League.